my house, where you keep peddling shit like that probably doesn't work.
Hello my lovelies, this is your British lady, Emily from EmzDiary. Apologies I haven't made a video in a while, but thankfully a new subscriber, Brandon, has motivated me to make new videos, so don't forget to hit the ring-a-ding-ding bell and hit the subscribe button for more videos from EmzDiary. Today I am inspired to share a true story about surviving boarding school. If you have gone to boarding school, if you had a childhood where you grew up in boarding school, even if you just went for a few months to a year and it was a very traumatic experience for you, please do let me know in the comments below what your experiences were. I know a lot of people can't possibly relate to this experience. Most of my friends can't. I'm kind of the only person that I really know who I'm friends with that has ever had to experience this. It's kind of a rarity, a lot of people going to boarding school, but if there is, if you know of a friend or a family member that could benefit from this video, do share it and let them know about this video. I'm sure it could benefit them. Also, there is a website here in the UK, because I know England's big on boarding schools, a lot bigger than countries like Canada, where I'm originally from, so there's a website, or an organisation rather, here in Britain called Boarding School Survivors. I will put that website down in the description below, where there's adults talking about having grown up in boarding school most of their life. So it's quite interesting, that is. Thankfully, my experience is that I only went for 14 months, so I'm going to try and make this video as short as possible. I'm going to make maybe this 2-part segment, 3-part segment, since it is quite a long story, but to start off with, I was not a rebellious teenager. A bit about my background, you know, I wasn't stupid, I didn't go around doing drugs, all that crap, you know, couldn't be bothered with it, thought it was a waste of time. I was quite a smart individual. You know, I wasn't on the honor roll or anything like that, kind of had a really bad time in my teenage years, but, you know, I wasn't stupid. I skipped school a couple times, I'll admit it. I was miserable in school. I had a bit of a truancy problem, when I was like 15, 16, probably more, 15 I think. I didn't do it at 14, 13, but 15. I just got tired of attending a lot of classes that were pointless, and half the stuff you learn in the education system these days is just a big joke, right? So, getting to the point, basically, I just decided to go to boarding school voluntarily because I had a hard time making friends in high school, and I had gone to 3 different high schools between the ages of 13 to 16, and when you don't have any siblings like myself, it gets very challenging making friends when going from school to school. It does get very difficult. It's quite traumatic, actually. So, so this place is now shut down. They had a lawsuit against them, actually. You can check out the article in the description below. So I was there from, 2010 to 2011. You can probably guess my age, you do the math, but anyway, they had it was a school, I think, that had been set up in 1981. They had some very punitive rules. There were 200 rules you had to follow. It was co-ed, so there was a boys' dormitory and a girls' dormitory. I lived, obviously, in the girls' dormitory. It was very questionable about how the dorms were built and everything. There was poor insulation in the wintertime. Some of the windows were left open in the window. I was very, very sick down there. I got extremely sick. I lost my health down there at the age of 17 or whatever it was, and I think it was because of the spiritual abuse that I went through. Now, this is a very fundamentalist boarding school, and this is kind of the problem with religion, or mainstream fundamentalist Christianity, as I like to call it. That's another subject for another day, but it's places like this, places like traumatic boarding schools that wants people to kind of, make people very angry at God, and they kind of turn their back on God. Can't really blame them. I did for a while after attending this school. So regardless of your religious beliefs, I just wanted to share my experience that, my thoughts on this is that God is not very happy with the way that the pastor down there, Pastor Brothers, treated people. I don't think he's too happy because they are bankrupt, they're shut down, and if they weren't shut down, I would just keep my mouth shut and I wouldn't say the name of the place, which was Freedom Village, USA. But yeah, he has had allegations against him. I won't say too much. He didn't do... So some of the rules there to start with, if you went to boarding school and you had different rules, I'd like to know in the comments below. We couldn't stare at a boy, couldn't look at a boy. I didn't even have my first kiss until I was 18. So the fact that they punished me for being a normal 16-year-old girl, you know, just not healthy, just not normal. Most 16-year-old girls should be learning to get their driver's license. You know, having a normal life. You want to go out with a group of boys and girls, having just a normal, healthy, happy life in their teenage years. They should not be forced to carry a pile of wood that is 4 pounds heavy in a circle for 4 hours for being late. And this is why a lot of people want nothing to do with Christianity or the church and in general, because, like I said, in places like this, they base the Bible, they made the Bible their excuse for their 200 rules that they set. I mean, I can show you the outfits that you wouldn't be allowed to wear if I go to my wardrobe right now to give you an idea. I mean, at the time, Abercrombie & Fitch was banned. I can kind of see why at the time, but they're really not a terrible brand. I mean, maybe at the time they were. You know, they had a lot of nudity and stuff back in the mid-2000s, but, you know, you couldn't even wear a skirt, I think, above your knees. So, mini skirts were banned, that's a bit ridiculous. Shorts were banned. I mean, you know, this is a very toxic thing with modesty culture within the Christian church, I do have to say that. I was screamed at once because I wore a shirt. You could not wear a shirt lower than 2 fingers below the collarbone. Nowhere in the Bible does it talk about that in terms of modesty culture. And this is just something that's another subject for another day, but they emphasize rape culture there. Basically where, oh, well, you don't want to tempt the men, right, because of the way the women are dressing. You don't want to be a stumbling block to the guys, right? A lot of bullshit that was, pardon my language. So the men were at the front of the audience. I was at the very back, not the audience, the chapel as you want to call it, as we had write-ups every chapel every morning. Every morning we get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5:45 in the morning, and we'd have to go to this chapel probably around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. We get there by, hard for me to remember. We'd have breakfast before the chapel, and if we were even 5 minutes late to the cafeteria, or we were missing something in our school uniform, which consisted of a long blue skirt, blue socks, black leather shoes, and a white jumper or whatever, we call it jumper here in the UK, we call it like a cardigan, as I like to call it, you would get write-ups. And if you broke one of the 200 rules about that, as if this was some kind of like military school or something, I'm not cut out for the military, never have, never will be, you would have to they would be forced to carry a pile of wood for 4 hours, and if you refused to do it, I think they would either send you home, or the punishments would get even more severe. And I had one stupid thing there after 2 weeks. You're expected to know the rules after 2 weeks of being there. So I think they'll let you off a couple of punishments within the first 2 weeks. I think after my 3rd or 4th week of being there, I was humiliated because the cook there didn't like the way I cut bagels. I'm left-handed, so you know, I'm not used to, you know, using knives that are for people that are like right-handed, right? So she said, oh, I don't like the way that Emily cut the bagels, so we're going to give her a 1-hour punishment for woodpile. We're going to send her to get up at around, whatever it was, 4:30 in the morning. Okay, maybe it was 5 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Very early in the morning, I think it was 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then I'd have to hold wood, if I remember correctly, for, I think there was a 1-hour punishment in the morning, so they didn't have the time in the morning to do the 4 hours. So it was 5 o'clock in the morning until probably maybe 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And I would have to carry out wood. And, you know, this was Lakemont, New York. This is not a very warm climate. It's quite similar to Ontario, as I like to call it, where I'm from. And thankfully, count my blessings, the woodpile ended after about, I was there for after 5 months of me being there because I got deathly sick. And the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. They stopped me from carrying the wood, thankfully, because if they hadn't, there would be a definite lawsuit against that place. But unfortunately, of course, me not being an American citizen, not sure how many rights I would have as somebody that does not have American citizenship to sue that place. So they didn't do that. So anyway, there are other lawsuits against that place. You can check that out. I'll put links down in the description below. But yeah, I wasted 14 months of my life there. Now, if I regret going there, not entirely. I had friends there that I still have friends with to this day. Most of them are married with children. I don't have kids. I'm not really planning on having kids. I don't really see a future for myself with kids. But yeah, they have kids. I was able to stay in New York City in 2016 with one of my old friends from there. But I haven't seen most of them since before the pandemic. But that place, you weren't even allowed to talk to certain people. There's talking permission rules. If you talked about something unapproved, like a Hollywood celebrity, a film that you like that they don't put on their approved list, you would get woodpile. And sometimes, if you were lucky, I think there was one time where instead of giving me woodpile, they made me write out scriptures in the Bible. So that was like, okay, I had that growing up in Christian school as a child and everything, so I can be like, okay, that's not as bad, but it's dependent. It shouldn't be for not being able to cut a bagel properly. That's ridiculous. But yeah, the definition of Puritan is definitely the definition of this school. Very narrow-minded. The most fun I think that we had was when the music concerts came in. I didn't mind gospel music, don't get me wrong. That was the most positive part of going to the school. And if we were good and we obeyed their 200 rules, we would get to go to something called an E-level tree. I got up to the levels there, Pastor's Club, whatever they called it. Levels there. We don't have levels in the real world, obviously, so this is just a, extremely narrow way of secluding you from the outside world. It's very sheltered. Your boss is not going to care what level you get. Your boss is not going to care if you don't make your bed in the morning, if you don't read your devotional in the morning. That doesn't apply. You can do it at whatever time of the day you want. To this day, I don't always make my bed in the mornings. I'm not a morning person. I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to my job sometimes. I don't have the time to do that. But if you didn't make your bed properly, woodpile. Same thing. You didn't write down your devotions properly and put it properly on top of the bed, you'd either get a written warning if you were lucky, if the staff there or the pastor was in a good mood that day, or you get something else. One time I ran my mouth while I was written up with another girl who had way more punishments than me. She somehow was arguing with me and I ran my mouth, and one of the staff there wrote me up while I was sick. Not okay. So, and it amazes me how many staff there left, which is a good thing. I'm really glad that a lot of people left there. They realized it was brainwashing. They realized it was extremely, a cult. Definitely a religious cult. Some of the staff there just weren't trained to deal with people with childhood trauma. That's understandable. I'm not fully blaming the staff. They did the best that they could. Some of them were very nice people, don't get me wrong. But, the fact that they don't even offer the staff training while the pastor goes out in his big fancy car. I don't even know if the staff were paid. I don't think they were. Correct me if I'm wrong. If staff member from Freedom Village is watching this, I do apologize. I don't know for sure, right? But, whether or not you were paid, I apologize on my behalf. I mean, then again, I was just there as a program kid, right? So I never really worked there, so what do I know at 16, 17, right? So yeah, I mean, it was just the most unhealthy environment. 14 months now, I had to see a specialist. I was in the hospital there for weekly checkups. They still made me do chores. I was still expected to serve the food, even when I was deathly ill. There were girls down there who had hives on their arms from the wood pile because they were allergic to the wood. I mean, I'm so glad that they went bankrupt in 2019. I cannot believe 8 to 9 years after I leave that place, because I left in 2011, so I was there for almost 15 months technically, but they finally shut down. That is justice to me. So that is my story for now, about Freedom Village, USA. I don't want to make this too long. I will pull it up, the video article here that I have from the Democrat and Chronicle. Yeah, Freedom Village shuts down in New York after 4 controversial decades. You can read it yourself. I won't read the whole thing out loud here, but yeah, as you can see, blah, blah, blah. Where did the money go? Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, months the founder would raise money for the South Carolina movie. They're going to move down to South Carolina, apparently, around 2019. It was going to go to a state licensed facility for at-risk youth. I mean, this was like a prison. This is a step up above prison. I've never gone to prison, but it was all just a prison. And it's just... I mean, I guess going there would have been better than a prison sentence, because I understand some people went there had criminal records against them, where they were going to go to juvenile detention centers. I didn't have that problem. So technically, I never really belonged there. I do remember my first week going there, one of the girls said to me, "What are you doing here? You look so innocent. You look like you haven't even done anything wrong." And I'm like, well, I just came down here because... Well, 1, I was bullied in high school. 2, I'd never lived in America before, and I always liked America better than Canada. And 3, well, I thought it'd be a nice place to make friends. That was really all I said, and that was it. Yeah, and I was grateful that I didn't get as many punishments, because I think a lot of girls talked to me that didn't have the talking permission rules, all that rubbish, right? And I talked to them because it's just ridiculous. And yeah, a couple of them talked to me about things that were not approved. We didn't get caught because, frankly, I think we did nothing wrong, and it's just ridiculous rule. Teenagers are going to talk about drugs and sex and whatever else. So it's fine. Like, it's just what normal things do. And yeah, I was lucky that I didn't get caught, because I really did nothing wrong. Somebody there stole a pair of jeans from me. She got 2 weeks of wood pile. I don't want my stuff stolen. I'm sorry that you have to carry wood, but don't steal people's stuff. Like, I didn't do that either, right? So I just stayed out of trouble there as much as I could, and thankfully I didn't get much punishment when I was really sick. They stopped it all, which was really good. It was punishment enough having to wake up to bells at 6 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, I will make a part 2 about this. I have a few other stories about it, so if you want more information, you want me to make a part 2, do let me know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've had experiences either at this particular boarding school or a boarding school in America or the UK. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day. Toodaloo!